people to join, if you could just answer the question that we're going to put in the chat, that'd be great.
Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Perfect. Okay, I don't see, oh, I'm going to let people in. Okay, looks like we've got everybody at the moment, and I'll just keep an eye on that as people join. So welcome everybody. Today we're going to be doing a brief introduction to some of the Collaboration for Environmental Evidence materials and services that we provide. This presentation is being live streamed and recorded. So if you don't want to appear in the recording, please make sure you turn off your camera. And by participating, you're consenting to the recording and potential use of the content that we're going to create today. So as I mentioned earlier, if you are just joining, you can add comments and questions to the chat. We'll be monitoring that. And there's also a question to you if you are interested in responding to those kinds of things. Okay, so first thing, we're just going to briefly introduce ourselves. So I am Meagan Harper. I'm a PhD candidate at the Canadian Centre for Evidence-Based Conservation at Carleton University in Ottawa. I'm just going to admit someone from the waiting room. I conduct evidence syntheses as well as metascience, and I am acting as the Executive Office Manager for the CEE. Natalie?
Hi, my name is Natalie Dubois. I am a former U.S. Agency for International Development contractor where I have spent most of my time engaging with evidence users, particularly in biodiversity and development programming. And I volunteer with CEE as a communications volunteer, so I help run some of our social media and support Meagan and some of the comms functions of the executive office. And then I'm also a member of our CEDAR Review College, which is one of the CEE services that we're going to share with you during this workshop today. So thank you for joining.
So just in terms of what we're going to be covering today, we've got a brief little introduction that we've just accomplished, and then we're going to be doing a little activity to learn some of the things about evidence and environmental evidence that sometimes get confused. So we'll do a little fact or fiction game that will be provided through a QR code. And then we'll go into some service spotlights about what we do, the kinds of things that we're involved in, and some of the services that we provide for people who are conducting evidence syntheses, funding evidence syntheses, and potentially using them in making decisions. And then we'll do a brief wrap up. At any point during the presentation and the activities, if you have questions, please feel free to add them to the chat, raise your hand, we can have a conversation as we go through. So if you just joined us, we do have a question in the chat where we're asking, have you heard of CEE before? And we would like to know what kinds of information that you already are aware of and some of the things that you have potentially used CEE for, those kinds of things. It's up to you how much information you'd like to share. Okay. So our next little item is the game that we're going to be conducting. So I'm going to hand it over to Natalie.
Great. So we have set this up to be a little bit interactive and a little bit fun. We've set it up so that even if you're following on the live stream, you can join. So I'm going to go through the instructions on how we're going to play this game. We're going to use the app called Mentimeter. And so Meagan, if you want to forward one slide for me, I can go through the instructions. First, I just want to give you kind of a preview. This is what you'll see after you join. So it's an interactive game. We'll post a question, and then you'll be able to answer it. All of our questions today will be fact or fiction. The first question that we'll all practice with is today is Sunday. Hopefully you can answer that one, but we may have some different views in the audience about what the day of the week is. As I said, we'll give a couple of different ways to join. So if you're joining us in the workshop in Zoom, you can join, or if you're on the live stream. So can you go forward one slide for me, Meagan? All right, so the three ways we have to join our game. Meagan's going to put a link in the chat after I open up the Mentimeter game. You can join at menti.com, and when I switch over to my screen here in a minute, you'll get the code. And you can scan the QR code and you can join with a phone or a device. So, and if you're watching the recording after the fact, we'll show you all the questions and the responses, so you can just follow along and enjoy the game. So, Megan, you're going to stop sharing your screen and I will try to open up the Mentimeter. All right. All right. Can participants see my screen? Megan, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. And you see the Mentimeter?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So everybody can try and either join. If you're in Zoom, just click the link in the chat. If you're watching from the live stream, either join at menti.com with the code 2610-6403, or you can scan that QR code with your tablet or phone. And if you have any trouble, just pop us a message in the chat if you're in the Zoom room. All right. Can I get
Just
a thumbs?
just to let you know, I have put the Menti code in the chat on YouTube as well.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. Fact or fiction? I'll leave the QR code up for a minute. Today is Sunday. Everyone can try and vote here. Okay, great. It looks like, oh, somebody's ready for the weekend. All right. A few more people. Great. Okay, so we have at least 13 people playing. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And we've got 13 players ready. So it should have given you an avatar and asked you to join. When we play this quiz, you're going to get points both for being correct and for the speed at which you answer the question. So I will read the questions out. You'll have 10 seconds to answer the questions, and then we'll see how everybody does. So if we're ready to play, we're going to play fact or fiction and try and cover some learn a little bit about the Collaboration for Environmental Evidence and what we do. So remember, answer fast to get more points. Look at your device. Fact or fiction? CEE funds and conducts evidence syntheses. 8 seconds to vote. Get your votes in. Get your votes in, and time is up. All right. Meagan, we had 8 people say fact and 2 say fiction.
Okay, so actually CEE is not a funder of evidence syntheses, and we don't actually conduct them ourselves. So CEE methods are used, we do not directly fund them. Instead, what happens is that we are a global platform that provides open access, resources, guidelines, and standards to support independent research organizations and institutions to conduct evidence syntheses. Some of our centers, which are partners in doing evidence syntheses, do conduct evidence syntheses, but we don't actually fund them.
All right, so that was a bit of a hard one to start with. Let's go to the next question, see how we can do. All right, and we got our little spy guy and Thomas the Train up there as on the leaderboard. Good work. Let's move forward to question number 2. All right, are we ready to go? Fact or fiction? CEE supports evidence reviews primarily on conservation topics. 10 seconds to get those answers in. Oh, you guys are fast on the voting. All right, we'll go to the... All right. 8 are a fact here, and 5 thought this was fiction. Meagan, do you want to tell us the correct answer?
Yeah, so that's actually pretty good. We do cover conservation topics, but it's not what we primarily do. We cover a wide range of environmental issues. We include agriculture, pollution, forestry, mining, all different types of environmental issues that might influence biodiversity, humans, what have you.
Great. So while conservation is definitely one of our topics, we are cover all of the areas of environmental evidence. And let's see what happened to our leaderboard. Oh, we've got some switching around here. Who is in the lead right now? Still Thomas. All right, that train. You got to try and catch up to the train here. It's on a roll. Our third fact or fiction question is coming up. Fact or fiction? Environmental Evidence, the official journal of CE, publishes both primary research and evidence syntheses. Get those answers in 5 remaining seconds. All right, Megan, and here are results.
Okay, so this is a good one. This is actually fiction. Environmental evidence doesn't publish primary research. So if you go out in the field and measure a particular outcome, we wouldn't be publishing that. We focus exclusively on evidence syntheses, such as systematic reviews, systematic maps, but we also incorporate things like methodological papers about evidence syntheses, as well as papers that look at the use of evidence syntheses in policy. So we call those evidence in action papers.
Great. All right, let's go on and see who is in the lead. Is it still Thomas the Train? Oh, we've had a slight shift in our leaderboard. So good job to the penguin there. All right, next slide. This is question 4 of 6. We look like we're all ready, so let's start the quiz. Fact or fiction? CE's audience is mainly academic researchers. All right, Meagan.
Did fairly well on this one. This is a fiction. So while academic researchers do use CEE resources, our audience is a lot broader. We include policymakers, practitioners, other NGOs, and decision makers who rely on high quality evidence, and we try and support all of their needs in environmental management and policy.
All right, we are closing in. We got a couple more questions to see if we can pull up into the lead. Who's there right now? Oh, our little spy guy has risen to the top. All right. This is our second to last question. Again, fact or fiction? CEE guidelines require systematic reviews to include a stakeholder engagement process. Is that a fact or a fiction? All right, Meagan.
Yes, this is a fact. Involving stakeholders helps to ensure that we're making reviews that address relevant and practical questions. So it's something we strongly, strongly recommend.
Great. Let's look at our leaderboard, and then we'll go to the last question. Still holding on there, spy guy. All right. I think Meagan gave a clue to this one earlier, so let's see how we do. Fact or fiction? CEE operates through a global network of affiliated centers. All right, Meagan.
I kind of gave it away earlier, apologies. Yeah, so CEE supports a global network to build capacity for evidence syntheses. And we have global centers who work in environmental evidence. Our centers are in Europe, South America, North America, and Africa at the moment.
Great. All right, we're gonna see who won our game here. Congratulations to the spy guy. We'll send you kudos in the mail. Not really, but thank you for playing. All right, so we hope that that was just a fun little way to get you thinking and introduce a little bit about CE. You can close the Mentimeter window if you have it open, and Megan's going to switch over and share her screen for a couple of presentation slides in the deck, where we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we covered here. If you take this quiz again, you'll get 100 on it after this. So, all right. Let me stop my share, and Megan, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. It's always fun to see what people think about our collaboration. So our collaboration promotes and supports rigorous evidence syntheses, and we provide evidence services on issues that are of greatest concern to environmental policy and management. Some of the goals of CEE are to provide guidelines and standards for planning and conducting evidence synthesis. We also provide platforms that can help coordinate registration, actually conducting the review, going through the peer review process, as well as publishing syntheses. CEE was established as a nonprofit in 2008. So we're a registered charity, and our goal is to make as many training opportunities and methodology support as possible and available to everyone. Our training is both in person and online. So if you're interested in learning more, we do have opportunities for folks to build in their knowledge. And we also support a global community of practice. So there's lots of voluntary work, and most of our resources are open access, as I mentioned. There we go. So there are lots of different types of evidence syntheses. We've heard a lot about them over the last few days, things like meta-analysis, scoping reviews, umbrella reviews. CEE focuses mainly on systematic reviews, systematic maps, and rapid evidence reviews. And our goal is to help make them transparent, objective, repeatable, as well as updatable. One of the things that we really focus on is making them rigorous. So things like exhaustive searching, making sure that we're being comprehensive by including gray literature and peer-reviewed literature. Really being transparent about our methods. We have reporting standards for environmental evidence reviews. It's called ROSES. It's kind of like PRISMA, but a little bit more specific to the types of studies that we see in environmental systems. And we also really emphasize the need for critical appraisal. So if you went to the workshop just a few minutes ago where they're talking about assessing the quality of evidence, we provide guidance and tools to enable people to incorporate these into their reviews. So we've learned about the pipeline of doing a review, and today what we're going to be doing is highlighting a few of the areas along this pipeline that we provide resources and services. So our guidelines cover all aspects of conducting a review, and today we're going to be looking at some of the services we have when you're developing your review, when you're doing the analysis that's required within the review, as well as how to share information about your review and finding different reviews. So our reviews, as we mentioned earlier, cover lots of thematic areas. We're not just conservation. Some of our centers focus on different areas of environmental management. My center is conservation-based, but there are lots of other ones who have different focuses. And we look at the effectiveness of environmental management interventions, the impact of human activities on the natural environment. And we also look at links, so environmental sustainability, links to public health, things like social welfare, and trying to look at things synergistically and holistically. So we do this primarily through collaborations. We work with people like Cochrane and Campbell, as well as Evidence Synthesis International, the Global Evidence Synthesis Initiative, and other groups. So as I mentioned, we have different centers around the globe. We have 6 currently. Our first center was in the UK, and gradually we have gained additional centers in other locations. So we have the Canadian Center, we have one in Stockholm. The PACE Pan-African Collective is a continent-wide collaboration center. And then we also have some that are located at different universities. These centers are great contacts if you are looking for someone in your area. They provide some of our trainings as well as helping in the conduct of reviews. And we also have affiliated groups within our network. So these aren't centers, but they are organizations that help contribute to the goals of CEE through their activities. And if you'd like to learn more about these groups, we have information on our website, and I can also share their contact information with you as well. So as I mentioned, we have lots of free resources. This QR code goes to our website so that you can cruise around and see the different types of things that we have. We provide guidance, training. We have an open database that called CEDAR that looks at evidence syntheses, and we'll be diving into this a little bit more detail. We have an open access library of plain language summaries of the reviews that get published with the CEE and environmental evidence, which is our journal. These plain language summaries are great for people who are trying to use evidence synthesis to support a decision. They're written in plain language. They provide a brief summary of the full review just to give you the highlights of the outcomes. We also have an opportunity for people who are conducting reviews to register prospective evidence syntheses. This is called Proceed. We'll talk about this in a little bit more. And then we also have things like reporting forms and open software that folks can use to support their activities. So I'm going to hand it over to Natalie. The next thing that we're going to cover is a spotlight on some of our different services.
Yeah, so we wanted to use this opportunity to share a couple of the services that CEE provides. And so we're going to focus on 3 tools. One is called Proceed. One is our critical appraisal tool. And the third one that we have ready to share with you today is called CEDAR, and that's the CEE database of evidence reviews. We've set this up as a gallery walk. So we'll provide a link to a Google Doc in just a minute that you can go in, and we'll do 2 different rounds. So Meagan, if you could go to the next slide. Oh, wait, sorry, go back 1. Yeah.
I went too far, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot we changed how we're going to do this. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
And I will show you what it will look like when you enter this gallery walk, and then we'll let you hop on over there. So all right, when you enter the gallery walk, it's a Google slide deck. So you'll pop in on this gallery walk menu. And so here you can see that we've got 3 exhibits set up. One's on Proceed, one's on the critical appraisal tool, and one's on CEDAR. If you use your mouse, you can actually use this menu by clicking on the square. You'll see slide 3 pops up. So that will take you directly down to start in the Proceed exhibit. So if I click here on slide 3, it takes me through the Proceed gallery. And so I can use these arrows down at the bottom to move to the next slide. Or when I'm ready to return to the gallery menu, I can go back up to the first slide. So you have 2 options. You can either enter our gallery. And so in the gallery, there's going to be a set of slides where you can learn a little bit more about the service. And then there'll be a couple reflection slides where you can provide some feedback and think a little bit. Or if you don't want to use the gallery and you actually want to go directly to look at these tools on your own, if you click on the Explore Your Own, that will actually give you the link to the tool or service off of the environmental evidence website, or off of Proceed has its own website. So that'll take you off of the gallery walk. And then if you do that, we ask you to please return to complete the reflection slides. So there are a couple of reflection slides where we ask you to click and drag a star into a box to provide a response, or to tell us if you think this might be a tool that would be of interest to you. And then we have a couple of sticky note slides where you can tap on the note and actually enter a question for us, or a comment, or a connection. So we'll review those as a group afterwards in sort of a workshop format. So we're actually going to allow you to go through at your own pace. And so we'll do 2 different rounds. You can also, of course, it's the slide deck, use the menu on the left. So we'll do 2 different rounds. You'll have 4 minutes per round. I will show the join codes in just a moment. We'll leave the join codes, Megan, if you want to share your screen now. We'll leave the join codes up on the recording. And if you're watching on YouTube Live, there is a QR code there to join, or a bit.ly link that'll get you over there quickly.
You could just
And for those
stop share.
of you, yes, I'll put the gallery walk chat in the link for those who are actually in the Zoom room. All right, so I will share this screen in the Zoom room. So there's a link in the chat to join. Or you can join at bit.ly/CEE_ESMARConf. And if you can just give us a note in the Zoom, if you're on the Zoom meeting that you've been able to join, I will start the timer and we'll do 2 rounds. So it's your choice. You can pick where you want to go. And I'm going to stop. Let's see if the music plays. All right, looks like we got one person in. All right, we have a number of people in. If you're having trouble getting into the gallery walk, please send us a note in the chat on Zoom. And I will start the timer. So remember, 2 rounds. Please pick whichever service is of interest to you. Proceed is our protocol registry. The critical appraisal tool is self-explanatory. And then CEDAR is a database of evidence syntheses that is used primarily by users, but is also of interest to others. And I'll start the timer. All right, if you're in the gallery, we encourage you to go and click down on the reflection slides. So they'll be at the bottom of the gallery for whatever topic you're in. All right, we'll give everybody a few minutes to complete a question and comment or a reflection at the bottom of your current gallery. Meagan, were you able to see was the join code up while we had that open?
Yep.
Okay, great. Did the music play?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to hear it.
Yay, technology. All right, so let me reshare. So that was round one. You'll get to pick one more topic. It looks like most people that time went to the critical appraisal tool. So if you haven't gone to that one, feel free to go and check it out, and otherwise pick a different topic. So I will share again. So wherever you are in the deck, if you go back now to the gallery walk menu, and you can enter a new slot, a new exhibit, and we'll just do the same thing again, and then we'll go over and recap all 3 exhibits for those that didn't get to do one of the exhibits. And if you finish early, feel free to just explore the gallery on your own. So I'll start this timer again. right, and if you haven't filled out the reflection slides, there's 3 questions for each exhibit. This would be a good time to go and fill those out, or click on over to take a glance at the 3rd exhibit if you didn't. You still have time. All right, well, great. We're gonna go over. It looks like we had people who visited each of the exhibits, so that's great. We'll look at the comments that you made, and we're a small group, so we can actually open up for questions after Meagan gives us a little recap so that everybody familiarizes themselves with all 3 of the tools. So Meagan, we were going to have you open up the slide deck again.
Yes. Perfect.
Great.
Yeah, so if you didn't have a chance to look at Proceed, or if you want some more information, Proceed is an open access registry for evidence syntheses and titles and protocols. So what this means is that when you are planning a review and you've written your protocol, this is an opportunity for you to register it so that it's available to the broader public. We cover global and all environmental sectors, so it doesn't matter where you're working or what aspect of environmental management or policy or stuff like that that you're working in. Everything is welcome. This enables formal registration of a research plan, and so it helps decrease the risk of duplication amongst different research groups. You can check to see what types of evidence syntheses are being done by other people. It opens up opportunities for collaboration if somebody's looking at something similar, and it also enables you to refine your question. If somebody's asked a similar question to what you're interested in, but there is an opportunity to fill a research gap, that might be something to think about. One of the great things is it provides templates for doing your protocol. So when I started, protocols were kind of intimidating for a PhD student. I was able to fill out the template, and I knew that I was going to meet all of the requirements for the guidelines for the collaboration for environmental evidence, or the journal. It also provides editorial support so that if you submit, it won't go through full peer review. I just want to make that clear, but it does go through an editorial review, and they do have experience in evidence synthesis, so they can provide some feedback on your review. One of the things about Proceed is it kind of takes out the cost of publishing a protocol. So if you are a small research group or something like that, and you might be able to afford publishing your systematic review open access, but not necessarily both your protocol and your systematic review, you can use Proceed to kind of help offset some of those costs. So it is free to register and free to be part of. So I'm just going to switch over to the gallery walk. So it looks like some people think that this is something that they'd be interested and it would be useful for their work. Some are not sure. I hope that we've shared some additional information. If you have questions, feel free to email us or get in touch. We will share our contact information at the end of this workshop. How likely are you to explore Proceed? That's awesome. I really hope that you do take some time to take a look at it. It's one of those steps that's a requirement for many evidence syntheses, especially if you're publishing with environmental evidence. So do take a look at it if you have a chance. Natalie, were there any questions or comments or
There weren't questions or comments in the deck, but if anybody would like to raise a hand or just unmute themselves to ask a question, we can pause here for them. And I do want to say, for those who are watching on YouTube Live or watching the recording afterwards, this deck will be up in view mode, so you can use it to explore these services later on. So, all right. Let's move on to the critical appraisal tool.
Sounds good. So
A lot
heard a
of
lot.
interest there. So
Yes, yeah, we've heard a lot about the importance of critical appraisal in evidence syntheses. It's a way of assessing those primary studies to see if they have internal validity, so risk of bias, but our critical appraisal tool also looks at something called external validity. So it's the individual paper's ability to answer the question that you are generalizing. So our critical appraisal tool has both of those components. And so it provides guidance on interpreting and assessing 6 types of different bias that you might find in a primary study. And we look at both experimental and observational studies. So some of the questions don't apply to everything, but we do have the opportunity to include any type of study that's in the primary literature. We provide a checklist for each type of bias. So there are multiple questions within each type of bias that's considered. And then we bring those together to create an overall judgment for each individual paper. So it does look really complicated. It does look like there's a lot of things to consider. But because we set out each of those components separately, you're only answering one aspect of that risk of bias at a time. So you can really go through the methodologies and look for specific components. So rather than trying to make a judgment call, you're really going into each component and thinking about it critically. This is still in prototype, so I also wanted to make that clear. We are still looking for feedback. It's free to use and to adapt. So in the reviews that I do in my PhD, some of the questions were not quite appropriate for the type of research I was doing. So I was able to adapt it so that it met the requirements for the review I'm doing. And I was also able to include things like what study designs are most common and the types of bias that we would see in those. So that might be something to consider if you're looking to use the critical appraisal tool. And again, we do provide trainings periodically, and our centers are knowledgeable about critical appraisal tools. So if there is a support network, if you are looking for support in using this. So I'm just going to skip down yeah. So do you think it would be useful? Yes, I think it's very helpful to be able to see the different types of biases that can result. And we do provide that structured flowchart that makes it a little easier than just trying to figure out if you're adding or summing or how to move across. So that's exciting. And it looks like people are somewhat likely to look into it. So I do hope that you spend a little time looking through it. Again, if you have questions, we're more than happy to take those now, but we can also, you can also be in touch after the presentations. We'll be monitoring Slack and stuff like that over the next day or so.
We didn't have any comments in the deck, and for time, Megan, I'm going to bump us down to the third tool that we had, and we can go over the overview slide there.
So CEDAR is a database that looks at evidence reviews and overviews. So things like systematic reviews and systematic maps. So unlike PROCEED or our other databases, this one's looking specifically at evidence reviews. It covers evidence syntheses that look at effectiveness of an intervention or an impact of an exposure. So it uses that PICO framework. And we look at all environmental sectors, global coverage. This also includes gray literature reviews as well as published reviews. So it's something to keep in mind when you're looking through it. It provides a breakdown of the reliability of each review. Some reviews don't have critical appraisal and stuff like that. So it helps people who are looking for evidence to make a decision find the evidence that's going to support that decision with the most robust information. So I have used it as a PhD student to help me figure out what has been done in a particular area, but I know that some of my contacts in government have used it to help support their decision processes. So because we are assessing each individual review, we're able to look at methodology and reporting. Hopefully we'll be able to improve that into the future, but it also can help in decision processes. And let's just take a look here. Oh, looks like people are really interested in CEDAR. It's a great starting point if you're looking to start a review. So I hope you take a look through it. It's pretty cool. And how likely are you to explore? Awesome. Thank you. That's great to hear. Were there any questions? about that? Nope.
So let's see, Megan, do you want to switch back over to the presentation deck for us and we can put up our question slide?
Mhm.
And please feel free to raise your hand or ask any questions to be called on. While we leave that open, we'll move over to the next slide, which provides some contact info for us. So you can get in touch with us on our website. The info@environmentalevidence.org email is a way you can reach both Megan or myself, and we can redirect you to anybody, even the centers, if a connection might be useful in your work. Please consider following us to learn about upcoming events that we do. We are active on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky, and we have a quarterly newsletter. And so if you'd like to join our mailing list for that newsletter, you can use the QR code right there, or send us an email at info@environmentalevidence.org, and we can add you directly to the list. We want to thank the conference for having us and you for participating. We hope that the gallery walk was a little bit of fun and a different way to do a workshop rather than us just talking to you about those slides. And please, if you have questions, do feel free to drop them in the chat and we can stay on for a few minutes.
I will just check Slack to make sure that we're not missing anything there.
Okay. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for joining.
Mm-hmm.